Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Transformation Thursday, a conversation where we talk about turning points in life, pivotal moments in life, how we deal with change, and how we see how we resist change, and also like a little bit what we want to create for our future. And today I have an amazing guy here with me, Flo. He he's done some amazing things in his life. I think there's been quite some turning points in his life as well. Like he's living on a boat now. He's lived in Africa. He had a career as a recruiter in the finance industry. So I'm really curious about what you uh, have to say and to share, Flo. So if you just want to introduce yourself a bit, and then we'll get going.
Yes, hello and good morning here from today from Nice in France. I just sailed in yesterday evening, so I wasn't completely sure whether I have good internet connection or not. It's always a bit of a challenge when you're not only working without an office, but if you're moving with your office, so you're very dependent on the internet connection. Well, I'm a coach. Some say life coach. I prefer to say leadership coach, but in the end, I think it's very much the same. Leading others very often starts with leading yourself. So it doesn't matter where we start. The conversations tend to have a very similar routine. And mainly, I am an entrepreneur. So I had my own businesses from 21 years on, and I always had the drive to start some own businesses, and that's I think a reason why I have a very specific kind of dealing with my clients, and this is why I think it's very important to say, okay, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a coach because I
Mhm.
always have the entrepreneurial point of view. And
Okay.
most of all, Bas, I'm an adventurer.
Yes.
So
Yeah, tell
whatever
me a
I
little
do,
bit
I try
about,
to make it an adventure. Yeah.
yeah. Tell me like how did that come about, like having like your desire for adventure in your life? Is that
I
something
have
that
no
came
idea.
early or later?
Yeah. It's probably the books that my parents gave me to read when I was a child. So
Okay.
I loved to read. So as soon
Yeah.
as I could read, sometimes I was hiding below the blanket until 2 in the night because I always wanted to finish the book the day I started it, which, well, as a child often didn't work out. Um, but what I loved most was adventure stories. So I mean, from these fictional adventure stories with Native Americans to some explorers that traveled around the world, be it Humboldt or be it Livingston, and I could just emerge into these stories, and I thought, oh, that would be so wonderful if you could still do that, if you could still be a Marco Polo. I had no idea how to do that, so I thought today that's like a hobby. So first you
Mhm.
have to become successful, rich, you need to have your family, and you need to retire early, you need to have some money, and then you can go into these adventures. So I have it in my mind as long as I can think. But most of my life I didn't dare to touch that part of my soul.
Okay. But you created quite some adventures, right?
Yes.
What do you want to share any of those adventures?
Well, I think I go back one step further because
Hmm.
that suits very good with this topic of change. I When I still went to school, I had the chance to go on an exchange year,
Yeah.
foreign exchange year. I really sucked in all kind of languages. So my worst languages were the worst was Latin, the second worst was French, the third worst was English, and the fourth worst was German. And all the other classes, I had almost the best grades, but in the languages, I really sucked. But still, I wanted to go to an English speaking country, and everybody else wanted to go to the US. So I thought I want to go to Australia because,
Mhm.
well, it's an adventure. And then I read a lot about organizations that organize these exchange years in Australia. And then in the very last minute, I applied for the US like everybody else. And then, okay, I compared to everybody else. It was an adventure because I lived in the Rocky Mountains. I had a wonderful year. I never had the problem with language anymore afterwards because I went away from this learning vocabularies to talk to survive. and lots of other people thought, oh, that's such an adventure that you go abroad when you're 16. For me, it was like, yeah, it was like the easy way because originally I wanted to go to Australia. Then when I was done with school, I did not want to go to the army. I wanted to go to do civil service, but I didn't want to do that like in a local facility in the village where I grew up. So I figured out a way to do that in Africa. And but there you had the absolute insecurity that this will be granted as a civil service. So you can do that. You don't have to go to the army, but they can still come to you 10 years later and say, oh, well, we don't really regard this as a civil service. Now you still have to do that. And you had to pay for everything for yourself. So there was no payment involved at all. And it was called other service abroad, something like this. And I couldn't find anybody who helped me with that. And then I went to a national park in Germany, and I went to East Germany at the River Elbe. I had a wonderful year over there, lots of amazing experiences. But again, it was like the small option. I wanted to go to Africa, and then I went to East Germany.
Okay.
And then after that, I thought, okay, now you have to study. And again, I did not go abroad to study because I thought, well, you at least should have your bachelor or your first diploma here in Germany, and then you go abroad. And then I started to study. I needed some money on the way, worked a bit, and then founded my own business. And because I thought if I found my own business, then I'm going to be successful and rich very fast. I can sell it, and then I can go on my adventure, and it doesn't matter what I really study. Well, that didn't work out very well. It was the beginning of the 2000s. .com crisis was a big thing in Germany, and I had to work more and more and more and more to even keep it even. And I failed statistics 3 times in a row. So that was the first time that I thought, okay, now it doesn't matter. The business is not running. I failed at my studies here back there in Cologne, and then I went to Berlin, and I didn't really care what I work, and I just started doing all kinds of like telephone jobs, service jobs, and at some point, a friend called me and said she knows from a friend who has a friend, and they are looking for a recruiter. And that's how I started my journey into being a headhunter. And once again, it was not the career that I chose. I did not follow my gut feeling. I did not follow my heart. Okay, I was in Berlin, and I was wearing these fancy suits, everything custom built, the leather shoes, the ties, and driving through Berlin every morning through these historic buildings and having this nice office, flying to Frankfurt 2 times a week, having a penthouse apartment above Berlin, a sauna in the bathroom, all of that. I thought, okay, now this looks really important. I have to just do that another 5 or 10 years, and then I can go on to my adventure. I worked in the finance recruiting, and then Lehman Brothers happened, and overnight everything collapsed. And the company had to shut down. I started fighting with my wife. Everything fell apart, and I was absolutely not happy, and I did not know what to do instead, because I didn't follow that typical German career path. And I felt like I'm worth nothing. I felt like I faked my way into everything. I wanted to be somebody that I am not. And now I have no other chance than to stay there. and that made me absolutely miserable. Up to a point where I didn't care about my stuff anymore. I didn't care about the apartment anymore. The marriage fell apart. There were some other reasons for that as well, which I absolutely did not see coming, with depression and sickness and rock bottom. And that was the point where I thought, okay, now everybody thinks I'm a failure.
Yeah.
My family, my childhood friends, the village where I came from, I can't go back there with the shiny suit and the nice car. I just have to admit that I failed at everything, and I'm already so old. I was almost 30.
Yeah, very old.
I thought it's too late now. It's too late. It doesn't matter what I do now. So my life is basically over. And then I thought, okay, what would I do if I had the money by now? And I thought, I would like to travel the world and tell people about that.
Yeah.
Parallel, by the way, I started my my coaching training, because what I had seen during the time as a headhunter was that I cared more about the people than about the companies.
Yeah.
A company without people is not a company anymore, but people without a company is still people. So I had really honest and meaningful conversations with the people who worked there. And when everything fell apart and all of a sudden it was not the companies looking for people, but they were letting people go, those that I hired before, they called me and said, Flo, with the two of us, we had some of the best conversations in my whole recruiting process. Would you like to help me to find my own way? And of course I wanted to, but I thought I need these degrees and I need the experience and all of that. And this is why I wanted to transition into coaching. And because of that, I asked myself these questions like, okay, what is it that you really want to do?
Yeah.
And the coaching, sharing experiences, sharing opinions, but then helping others to follow their own way was something that I thought is magnificent. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to combine that with like the beauty of the world. I did not want to travel to all the cities of this world. I wanted to travel to Africa, to the Amazon, to the ocean, to Australia, of course, to New Zealand, and I wanted to write about this, tell people about faraway places, faraway cultures, how you can do things different. And I think all of that was rooted in my upbringing, where I learned this is the right way and everything else is the wrong way. So I felt my own thinking totally narrowed down to I have to do that's the only thing that you can do to be accepted by society. And I wanted to be accepted by society to be then special in society, which was always a very strong conflict. And one of these mornings where sitting in Berlin, by then I worked for like the oldest business school of the world, called ESCP Europe. It's a French école. They have a campus in Berlin, and they hired me as their international career service consultant for the worldwide alumni base, which was a super interesting job. I had lots of freedom. Very often I was sitting in a cafe because I liked the sunshine. And one of these mornings I thought, okay, what if you just go for that? What if you go on an adventure? And that is when I just thought about wild things to do, and I came up with the idea to run alone for 4 weeks in Sahara. I picked a point in Sahara and I wanted to go to the ocean, to Sidi Ifni. This is where the Petit Prince was written.
Yeah.
Because Saint-Exupéry, he was a postal pilot in Sidi Ifni, and I thought, okay, it's a wonderful story, starting in the desert, running there. And from then there was no turning back, because I
just like
stay in
I
office.
wanted to say something like, I mean, I was in finance as well, and I was very present to the Lehman Brothers bankruptcy as well, and they were a client of ours. I was working for Fortis Bank at the time, and I still remember that, like on a Monday morning, we were watching the television and we saw all these people walk out with their boxes. And we were kind of like joking, like, look at them, and then 4 weeks later, I mean, in that moment, we had, of course, no idea that Fortis was going to go through a similar event. Like 4 weeks later, it was like so bizarre. Um, but yeah, 4 weeks later, Fortis, the same thing, was rescued by the government, and then like that didn't work out, and then there was like a full takeover by the government. Um, and we would have been walking out with our boxes as well had the government not stepped in. So it's really been um, like a very like present moment. Like you have such a solid belief in the system, and then this happens, and then another thing happens, and everything falls apart. But what I wanted to,
Overnight.
yeah, overnight, like really overnight. But what I wanted to ask you is like, so you were talking about like you hit rock bottom, and then at a certain moment you see like a different life or a different possibility or an adventure. And was there like, now looking back, and you say it's like, when was that, like that moment that you saw that a different life was possible? Was there a specific moment, or did you have to go through like be at rock bottom for a while, or?
Well, it's something that I see in my clients very often.
Mhm.
That they, from the outside, it looks like they are living a happy life. They have
Yeah.
their family, they have their partner, they have kids, they have a house, they have a job they don't really love, but it's fair enough. So they could sit down and think about what they really want to do. They have money. They are sometimes spending more than they have, but it's just a question of rearranging.
Mhm.
It's not a question. So being rich is not a question of how much money you have, but it's about how much money you have compared to how much you need
Yeah,
or how
yeah.
much you spend. And they want to think about alternatives, but they are not willing to risk anything that they already have. So they say, okay, I don't like what I have, but I don't want to give it away. I want to
Mhm.
add something more on top of that. And very often I can't work with clients. They want to change, but they don't want to give anything up. So, and life is not, if your life is full, then it's not about adding anything. And very often I see, well, they have not hit rock bottom yet.
Mhm.
And for me, financial problems were not enough, or yeah, financial and perspective. I just did a bit more of what I did so far. I found other clients. I found another job. I transformed into another career, and that wasn't an easy transition from the headhunting to the coaching and then the career consultancy. That was about 1.5 years it took me, and these weren't glorious, but it just kept moving on. And then
Mhm.
I needed to have that personal setback. So there were some very tragic and life-changing situations with my ex-wife
Yeah.
that yeah led to people around me come to conclusions that were not true. And I decided to keep a couple of things private, so other people didn't know about it, but they made their conclusions, and all of a sudden they started judging me. So now it was not only the financial aspect, but it was also the social aspect, and that people, well, didn't grant me the freedom to be the person I am, but they started judging me on something where I knew it is fault.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to go there and explain myself. because I'm still the same person. If they are my friends, I want them to, first of all, put trust in me and support me and maybe have honest conversations, but not the finger pointing. And that was also a very, very important point in my career as a coach, because I figured out that my way is not everybody else's way, and probably nobody else's way. So I knew that whenever I take a decision, this might not be the right decision for other people. And for some reason, every once in a while, I need to learn to be more humble. And that was one very important lesson, to just let other people be as well. And if there's somebody in the coaching, not to tell them how to get out of there, but to listen more on where they want to go, because very often that is the important shift which happens internally in them. And it's absolutely not about me. It's not about what I think about that. I can pay attention and see obstacles or incongruencies. So if they say they want that, but they are acting like that, I can point that out. But it's not up on me to change that. And I needed to learn that in that situation where I had to face my inner demons, with my marriage, with my family, with people judging me, with people falling in my back, and with me not defending myself. And that is the moment where I thought, now it's not about money. Now it's about everything, and it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter what people think of me. Now I can just be the one I want to be. I don't have to prove anything.
Okay. So looking back, was it a gift or a curse?
I hated it.
Yeah.
It was a curse back then. It is a gift now.
Okay.
We are not learning for some stupid reason. We are not learning through our successes. The successes are the result, and I don't like these poster sentences like, you learn through failures, and it's only if you failure if you don't get up, because it seems so easy, and it's absolutely not easy. It absolutely hurts.
Yeah.
But it is a truth behind that. I mean, if most successful people, be it in sports or be it in finance or be it in business, they didn't do all the right decisions. But what they learned is that they understand their mistakes very quick, and that they are willing to try another way. So if you just keep doing what you have been doing, you will come up with the same results over and over again. And some people, they are testing their limits. They test the limits, they fail a little bit, and they go back to what they are used to, and then they stay there. It's completely fine. But they don't grow in that area. Like when you do sports, you have to come to the point where your muscles are aging. You have to come to the point where your muscles are refusing to do one more push-up. That is the moment that your body gets the information, hey dude, you need some more muscles, and then you need the sleep time, the relaxation, to actually build these muscles. And that is with all the other habits as well. I mean, habits, the brain is not a muscle, but there are certain neurological pathways, and they have to be built. And if you don't use them, they are not built. So if you're trying to, so in case you're wondering about the noise, so there are some ships passing, and my boat is just shaking from one side to the other. So that's welcome to my life. It's helping to live with change. If nothing is stable in your life, something is passing and everything is falling apart. So what was my last sentence, Bas?
You were talking about sports.
Yes, that has to grow. and that
Yeah.
you have to train your brain, not as a muscle, but you have to train these neurological pathways.
Hmm.
And if you look at the way a brain works, then most people, I would say all people, have different personas, depending on whether you are the lover, the parent, the teacher, the child, the friend. And if you look at brain scans, you see that different areas of the brain are active, and you can change from one instance to another, and there are different pathways used. And if you want to develop more in the one or the other direction, and you're forcing yourself to think more in that way, more neurological connections will be created. And
Absolutely.
they will only be created if you're coming to a point where it doesn't work for now. You come to a point where you don't know what's next. And that's when life gets interesting. That's when you have the chances. That's when there's possibility for change. And if you change for the worse, you can still stop and say you go the other direction. That's like being on a hike in the mountains. At the moment that you realize that you're on the wrong path, you can be totally mad about yourself. And you can say, no, I keep walking the wrong way until it will be the right. Or you realize it and you say, come on, I go back until the last junction, and then I follow the right track again. And if you want to grow, that needs to happen over and over again.
So yeah, talk about change, and then living on a boat. It's never the same day, right? Or
Yeah, even there you can adjust yourself, and you can go into a harbor where you pay for an entire year, and so you
yeah.
have your same slip at the year, and you never leave the harbor again. Then it's basically like a slightly moving camper van. That's it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then you can at the place where I had been the last 2 winters in Elba. There's a family living on the boat, and he has a job there. I think both parents have a job there. The children go to school there. They're just living on a boat. For me, it's different because I'm normally at anchor. So at anchor, you have to be very cautious with the wind. If the wind is changing, sometimes you have to move. And because I want to go to different places, and I'm planning to go further away over the next years, for me, it is very different. This summer, I needed to work a lot. So
Mhm.
I try to minimize the change from my boat life so that I can get certain routines, because I think especially my brain, has a certain capacity to cognitively think about something. So if you
Mhm.
have to think about where you will be in the evening every morning that you wake up. So when you don't really know where you are, you have to look around. I have a dog. You sometimes might hear him pass. So I have to find a way to walk the dog, to go running, to go shopping. If you have never been there before, it's like an exploration. It's super interesting when you're on vacation. You have nothing else to do, but it takes some time. It takes a couple of hours. It takes some energy that you have to think ahead. Then you have to check for the wind. You have to think whether you stay here or you go somewhere else. If I then have back-to-back calls, it's too much, because I
Mhm.
can do either one or the other thing. And if I want to work creatively, that means I don't have calls where I'm in an interaction with a person, but I have to sit down by myself, and then I have these thoughts. Then I can't concentrate on anything creative. So I'm looking for places that are extremely safe and extremely stable, to stay there for a couple of days or a week, so that I can sit down and work, have a certain kind of routine every day.
Yeah.
What I have when I found, well, I recognized that again during Corona, is that when I stay in a similar routine for too long,
Mhm.
I feel like my life is over.
Okay.
So I'm if I create a scenario around myself that is close to perfect and I have everything I want
Mm-hmm.
and nothing is changing anymore, then I think, well, the day today is like the day that I'm going to die.
Yeah.
So and then I want to move on, and then I think, okay, this can't be everything. There needs to be more. I want to learn. I want to grow, and therefore I have this, like this internal feedback that life never gets too comfortable for me.
Mhm. So I mean, there is this that I mean, I hear this curiosity to change or this desire for change,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also like change. I wonder how you look at change that, that's, let's say, forced upon you, or change you don't really like, or change you don't want to deal with, but you kind of have to work yourself through. How do you approach that?
Well, different.
Yeah.
I I love freedom.
Hmm.
I love to be in charge.
Hmm.
So if somebody else, and may it be the world or the nature, forces me to change, I do not like that,
Hmm.
because I like I prefer if I'm ahead of the time and if I can take the decisions that I want to take just because I want, not because I have to. But on the other hand, that's part of being alive.
Yeah.
The moment the moment the universe was created. So, I mean, if the Big Bang Theory is true or anything similar to it, then there was a time when everything in the universe was condensed in one single point,
Mhm.
singularity.
Yeah.
Nothing changes. Not now, not any time, and then not any time later, because there is no time.
Mhm.
The only way that you can measure time is that something is changing,
Mhm.
be it the clock going around or any atoms moving. If everything is still, you can't measure time because nothing is changing.
Yeah.
Time only exists if matter is changing their position.
Mhm.
And that, so time was created the moment that the universe was created, because it's exploding and you can look at it now and the atoms are here, and then you look at it later and they are flying apart.
Yeah.
So this is a part of being alive. Being
Mhm.
alive means everything in the entire universe is now different than it was a moment ago, and it
Yeah.
will be different in a moment in the future.
Mhm.
So, if you like it or not, the change is happening, and you can either you can try to neglect it, or you can try to live with it.
Mhm.
And this is something, when there's change, because the problem is not change. The problem, if there's change which is putting force on me, or which changes something for the worse for me. As long as it's changing for the better, everybody likes it. I mean, if you have more money all of a sudden, if you have more friends, if you have more freedom, if you have more love in your life, most people won't complain, but it's still change.
Yeah.
Um, and what helps me a lot is to focus on that change has always been there and it will always be there. And there's no
Mhm.
way that I will remain the same. So now, if everything is moving anyway, everybody on earth is faced with the same changes, and now I
Yeah.
can decide how I behave, because that is the free will that we have. If you're outside and it's raining, you can stay there and say, "Oh, I'm such a poor guy, I'm getting wet because it's raining." Or you can go inside, or you can take an umbrella, or you can get naked and have a shower in the rain. I mean, there are multiple options that you have.
Mhm.
The rain will be there, yes, but how do I respond to that? And the
Yeah.
response is which manifests the change in my life. Because if something starts happening which never happened before, I can complain about that, or I can try to find the best way to deal with that. So there's two kind of changes: the change that happens outside, and changes that happens to you. It will happen all of the time. And then there is the change inside of you. How do you respond to that? And how do you evolve? And that's when growth is happening.
Yeah. So do you believe, or do you think that resistance to change can be beneficial sometimes?
Yeah, as you can tell, I'm thinking about that.
Yeah. I don't really have an answer to that question
Yeah.
either. I'm
I
just
think
curious.
sometimes there are people that are I'm looking for the I'm looking for the English word, and I don't even know the German word correctly for it. There are people. So
What is the German word? Maybe I can
I don't know.
translate
I
it.
don't even know the
Oh,
German word. So these are people who are very actional.
yeah.
So there's like it looks like something might change in the future, and they are already going completely bananas about this, completely crazy about this. So they're like overreacting to that.
Hmm.
And I think that doesn't always help. Very often it helps to have a little bit of resistance to change and to like to go with it on a smooth way.
Hmm.
Sometimes there is a change which is forced by other people, and that can be super helpful if you resist that change. If you found a way of living your life that makes you absolutely happy, and it's not so. I mean, if there's a war and you act like there's none, you might get shot very easily.
Hmm.
So it doesn't help to be persistent there. If there's a worldwide climate crisis, I mean, you can be persistent to that because you say, well, I don't have to bear the consequences because I'll be dead anyway, and probably I'll be dead before everything goes bananas. So I don't have to. It might help you for your own life. Um, if there's something on a global aspect, I like to have a global view on that, and I want if I was involved in a business, I want to leave it in a better state than when I joined. If I enter a relationship, I want our relationship to grow, and I want to grow us as people. So I have that understanding of myself and my life and the impact that I want to have. That I want to
Yeah.
change things for the better.
Hmm.
And this is why I have a very bad feeling about leaving the world in a worse state than when I came to life. But on a very personal matter, sometimes it might help. I think persistence always helps if it helps in the short run, not on the long run.
Yeah. While you're talking, I was like thinking, if you like, when you resist change, it's like before the moment, the change, there was, you were not resisting, so you resisting it, or and whatever that, where
Mm-hmm.
whatever, by whatever that's motivated, whether that is like you want to stick to the old or you just want to go in another direction, that is change in itself. There was no resistance with you first, so now you're resisting, that's you changing, dealing with your change. Like,
That was a complicated take.
yeah. But I mean, yeah, it's like you are like, you kind of resist, like you resist, or I resist, to something that wasn't there before, is a change in myself, and I'm kind
Yeah,
of like,
yeah, 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 yeah.
so
So there will always be change.
yes.
As long as you're alive, it will change. And if everything else changes, and now you build up this resistance, you're changing to build this resistance. So there will be change. And I prefer to be the manager of my change
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
go into the direction. And very often we create these small habits as building up the resistance,
Hmm.
because something is changing and we are not completely aware of that. So we have this new belief or this new habit, and all of a sudden, some point later, we realize that we have it. And I think it makes a lot of sense to always change your belief structure and your habits and say, does it still serve a purpose? Which brings me back to the very beginning. Everything else in life, ask yourself, does it still serve a purpose? I'm very, very loyal to people, to commitments, and even to things in my life. I don't like to throw away, not a relationship and not stuff. But as soon as my life is full, I'm doing something every day. Even if you don't own anything, even if you don't have a job, you are not unconscious 10 hours a day. Even if you're sleeping, then you are sleeping to recover your body and you recover your brain. That serves a purpose. I'm not sitting there and all of a sudden it's 10 hours later, I'm doing something. So if I want to add anything into my life, I have to let go of something else. So letting go of beliefs, letting go of relationships, letting go of toxic people, and letting go of stuff, letting go of hobbies. It won't make you happy if you add something on top of a full life. Very often what helps much more is if you look at what you already have and you throw away, literally or physically, everything that does not serve your purpose anymore. And all of a sudden you create room for something new, room for creativity, room for being yourself. So it's not about adding, it's about letting go. And then after saying no to almost everything else in life, you have the freedom to say truly yes to something that you want. And then we are back to being a rich person. And then we are being back to the rich person. It's not about how much you have. It's about the feeling that you have enough or slightly more than you need.
Yeah, so I think that's a good moment, like, to go to the final section of this live.
Yay!
What are you creating, like, out of that for your, like, future and immediate future? What are your plans? What do you want to do?
Well, my plan is to become a wise man. I want to create experiences. And a coach of mine, we talked about compass in life. I have a son that I don't see, and it's been part of that tragic change in my life. And I decided very early on that no matter what's going to happen, I'm going to love him unconditionally. And when I realized that I probably will not see him again until he's old enough to find me again, I ask myself two questions when I have a new opportunity. Number one, does it help my soul to grow? So do I personally grow with that new experience? And the day that I tell Sufyan about it, will he be proud of me? And I have the feeling, yeah, that is a story that I want to tell my son one day. When he asks me, what have you done the last 20 years? That's a story that I want to tell. Then I know I'm all in. That's me. So this is why I want to create these experiences. I do not want to have watched all of Netflix. I do not want to have even read I really like to read, but I do not want to have read all the fiction books. But I want to have been out there in the world. I want to have seen as much as possible cultures, stories, nature, and I want to have been there on my own feet and tell stories about this and motivate other people. And by that, I hope to become more and more a person that has something valuable to share without the need to educate anybody else. So when I think about myself being 100 years old and leaving this planet, and people who have met me before, they say, because I met that person, I changed something in my life for the better, although he doesn't know, because he gave me a new perspective. that I adopted for myself. I mean, the more people I have like this in my life, the more it was worth it.
Okay, great. And are there any like intentional steps that you're taking in the immediate future? Oh, he dropped off. Let's see if he comes back. I'm not sure if Flo comes back. I think we're just going to end the live here. It was really a pleasure to have him, to have Flo here in this LinkedIn Live. And this happens when you're going live. What I will do is I will put his details in the notes, and then you can reach him if you like to have a conversation with him. And you can also reach out to me. I'm Boston Pesk. I'm executive mindset coach, and I'm here to help. Oh, he's coming back. I was rounding up, saying you weren't
Yes.
back anymore, but here you are. So,
Well, I'm back. Yeah, that's probably part of boat life. The server just didn't respond anymore and said unable to load. And now, and the boat passed. So intentional steps. Yes. I did a couple of plans for this year, which did not work out because other people decided to let me down. So I'm struggling. I was struggling a lot with that, especially with the personal disappointments. So now I'm very careful about making plans. I have some ideas. I do not know exactly when they happen. Well, I run two different kind of companies. The one is my coaching business, and I focus mainly on mastermind groups for companies around leadership, either female leadership or the entrepreneurs, and a very, very small number on one-on-one clients that are mostly people that look like they have everything from the outside, but they have the feeling that they are not where they want to be. And I'm working with them on a long-term one-on-one basis, and I want to incorporate these into my daily routine, sailing everywhere. And then I have an adventure safari company in Tanzania for Kilimanjaro hikes, Serengeti tours, and Ngorongoro tours. So a lot of different kind of Africa experiences. This is the one where I was struggling with my partners, but we are still making very, very unique experiences. And I just met somebody who was on Kilimanjaro 3 weeks ago with my company in Liguria, and he said, what is special about that is that you have the feeling that you travel with friends. And I would like to keep both companies because it's giving me an outside perspective from the coaching if I have some real business.
Yeah.
And while doing these two businesses, I want to sail around the world. I probably stay in the Mediterranean for this winter, but then the next summer I'll be going towards the Canaries, and then probably for the winter into the Caribbean. But this is like part of the plan. We will see. I don't know.
That's what I'm doing this November, from the Canaries.
Probably
to the
not while working and on your own boat.
No, not on my own boat, and I won't be working. No.
Yeah. So far, I did the last crossing solo, and that is edgy for me. That is I really have to plan carefully, because if something happens, there's nobody that you can ask. And you have to watch out like every 10 to 20 minutes, day in, day out. And if then something unexpected happens, you can be in trouble really, really easily. and this is keeping me on my toes. And I
Yeah.
probably, if I cross the Atlantic, I would like to have somebody with me so that I can get a bit of sleep, because I'm getting very moody and unconcentrated if I don't sleep enough. But it will be part of the adventure. I'm writing about this, having a blog on Patreon where I document this, and so I plan to keep the adventure a part of my life.
Absolutely. That's a huge adventure. Okay, Flo, I really want to thank you very much.
You're
I
welcome.
already did kind of like the ending when you were when you dropped off.
Yeah,
Um, it was a real pleasure to have you. You know, I will I will put all the details like in the notes so that
yeah,
people can reach and
nice.
follow you wherever you are. Um, I really, want to wish you well in your adventures in the Mediterranean and uh, like in your preparation to crossing the Atlantic. Um, and yeah, thank you
Next
very
year.
much for being here.
Thank you, Buzz. Keep up the
Okay,
work. See you
thank you.
soon.